Good evening. I would like to bring to order the March 5th, 2025 meeting of the Sandwich Conservation Commission. My name is James Andrea. Present tonight are
Linda Romano, I'm an alternate.
Haley Woodrow.
Bernice Waller,
Jonathan Klein.
Kimberly Walsh,
Jeremy Shea.
Aaron Turkelson.
Please note, this meeting is being recorded live and streaming on Sandwich Community Television. Live broadcast can be viewed by visiting sandwichcommunitytv.org on government live stream, or you can view later on government on demand. You can also view on local Comcast Channel 9. I would like to remind everyone of our meeting format. For all hearings, the applicant will be allowed adequate time to present their project to the Commission. Upon completion of the presentation, the Commission will be allowed to question the applicant, ensue Commission discussion, and ask for staff comment and input. Upon completion of the staff's discussion, I will summarize for the record any public comment received by staff prior to the meeting. I will announce public comment to the audience. Where any parties interested are to raise their hands, I will ask you to come up front. Please speak clearly into the microphone, which is above us, and stating your name, address, and affiliation for the record. 3 minutes will be allowed. All speakers are to address the Commission, not applicants or audience members. When the 3 minutes are up, I will ask you to take your seat. A reminder to all, public comment is not a Q&A forum. Upon completion of the public comment, the chair will announce the closure. Upon closure of public comment, the applicant may add additional information, comment to the commissioners. The commissioners will deliberate with the staff. Finally, I want to remind everyone that this commission is comprised of your neighbors, volunteering our valuable time to help protect our town's natural resources to the best of our abilities. Our job is to uphold the provisions set forth by the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, as well as the Town of Sandwich Wetlands Bylaws, Chapter 7. We appreciate your understanding. Alrighty, we'll start it right off with new filings. Opening up DEP file number SE66-20244, Matthew and April Forbes, care of Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. File the notice of intent for proposed raise and replace of existing single-family dwelling at 101 North Shore Boulevard, Sandwich, Mass., located at map 70, lot 96.
You mind if I move it?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Just feel it. I know that. It's new setup.
All right, for the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors representing the applicant. Also with me this evening is Ann McNevich, the architect. Property is located at 101 North Shore Boulevard, currently developed with existing cottages, a garage, beach access steps. Resource areas on or within 100 feet of the property are a bordering vegetated wetland to the south of the road. The entire property is located within a coastal dune, coastal beach system, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. We're here tonight looking for your permission to demolish the existing garage, the existing dwellings, and construct a new house that would be built on piles to allow the movement of the sand beneath it. All roof runoff will be diverted to dry wells. It'll be the existing septic system will tie into or the proposed house will tie into the existing septic system. There's a deck system that runs around the house and a set of steps that will lead down to the beach to the rear of the dwelling. We have filed an application with Natural Heritage because there's a small portion within the jurisdiction. Unfortunately, this meeting takes place before their time period, so we're still waiting on that. We're proposing to construct a new shed in the place of the old garage for storage. We are also proposing to remove the existing concrete wall, and we'd like to put back a precast block wall in its place. And we have a new walkway that basically leads from the parking area up to the proposed house. This new walkway is basically a safer walkway. It's not as steep as what exists out there right now, and it provides a safer private entrance for the applicant versus the shared walkway to the left. If you've been to the site, it's a little steep. All disturbed areas will be replanted and revegetated with American beach grass, similar to other projects we've done in the area. And then when the driveway, or when all the site work is done, the driveway will be restored to a gravel driveway as it currently exists. If you have any specific questions about the site plan, I'd be more than happy to address them. If you have questions about the architectural plans, Ann can address those. And I have gone back and forth with staff about a few concerns they've had as well.
Unless you have any questions.
All right, I'd like to open it up to the staff for comments.
As we've discussed, I had a couple comments regarding the 24 inches minimum for the proposed shed. That's gonna have to be raised as well. The gravel path, site plan to show a 4-foot wide gravel path, just because that's not detailed on there. I just wanted to make sure that was made out of something pervious as well. My biggest concern was the precast block wall. I did go by the site, and there is a, I don't even know what you would call it. It looks like the bottom of garage, stone wall out there now, or brick wall out there now. And I know you wanted to remove it and put precast, or you had mentioned timbers. The concern with that is it will inhibit the movement of sand in that dune resource area. So typically what's allowed is a one timber and then mesh underneath to prevent the stones from getting kicked out of the driveway. But we don't typically allow any type of retaining wall or things like that to the extent of what's there now. It kind of goes along with the same reason why the house has to go up on pilings versus a concrete foundation. It would inhibit the movement of the sand there. So that was my biggest concern. Everything else you've addressed. I know we don't have the NHESP letter yet. The habitable space policy has been addressed. You're well below the 60%, so that's fine. And you've got footings on the site plan. So yeah, that was my main concern.
Thank you. I'd like to open up to public comment. Oh, yeah. Yes, please. Just state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Lisa Gavigan, and I'm in a butter. I actually live right next door to this property at 103 North Shore Boulevard. It's one of the old cottages that was built there in the 1950s. And I'm here to express my concern that the pile driving and the digging on that part of the dune could potentially undermine the foundation of my home and cause structural damage or compromise the integrity of that. And so I was just wondering if there is currently or will be a proactive plan to mitigate that. And if there is damage, what would be the action at that point? So I don't know if I do something at this point, who I speak with. I am having a structural engineer come on Friday to take a look at my foundation and if there could be damage, and he'll write me up a report. And I'd like to be able to file that at some point, but before, I would prefer to be proactive with those concerns than to come to the owners of the home afterward with a complaint.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can file. You can send it. You can send it to them via email, and they can share it with us. Absolutely.
Okay, and then you'll act upon that concern. What is that process?
We would see it, we would review it and see what the engineer says, and then we can bring it when they come back for their continued meeting, and we discuss this again.
Okay, all right, wonderful, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Public comment? Any others? All right, closing public comment and opening up to the board. Did anyone have any questions?
I'll start. Do you think that will the entire site be cleared or need to be cleared to do the work that you're doing? Or are you maintaining most of the vegetation in between the driveway and the house?
So we're trying to maintain the vegetation to the, I guess you'd say, to the western side. I've kind of shown the whole area to be restored in case there is disturbance. But the idea would kind of to create that path along the eastern side of the property line, where the garage is, where the shed is, and where the new walkway would go, up to the house. That would kind of be our construction access.
Okay, yep. And what are you telling us what you're replanting with?
We're replanting with the American beach grass. If the board feels that some bayberry should be installed, similar to the last project that was before you,
Yep.
I'm sure we can make that happen.
Yeah, one of the things I think that we should think about is the fact that there's vegetation behind that what is now a retaining wall that they're requesting to replace. And if they don't, if we don't allow a wall, then that grade is they're gonna have to remove vegetation. That grade is gonna like slope down to the parking area that they have.
Well, what about dune restoration in that case, like?
And then
replanting
you'll
it?
have to replant it, but I mean, I do kind of find that it's a shame that that they would have to remove established vegetation to not have that wall in there. I just think they have this kind of unique pre-existing condition where they're sandwiched, their parking is sandwiched there. So I don't really know how we could possibly handle that, or if we could allow some kind of small amount of I mean, that wall right now that they have is like wicked tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's not doing all of the work there. It only really needs to retain a couple feet.
We did talk about, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, about the wall prior to the hearing. It could be constructed a lot lower if you've been to the site. The wall might be like 5 to 6 feet tall if you're standing on the street side, but if you went to the back side of the wall, there's probably at least 2 feet plus that could be cut off of that wall. So if the wall were to be permitted to be rebuilt, we could cut that height down, similar to what
Yeah,
Commissioner.
because you guys know that that's a tall ask for the concrete in there. So yeah.
If the wall wasn't there,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here asking for this.
Right.
It's because it's a pre-existing condition that we're kind of just asking to rebuild it. And if the commission feels strongly that the precast block wall can't go in,
Yeah.
then we would convert to something more traditional like timber.
I think a SketchUp of the proposed wall would sell that a lot easier, because I can see it. You're saying it'd only be like 2 feet tall.
Well, about 3 feet.
Probably
tall.
about 3 feet tall.
Yeah, just a battered concrete wall. I could see it. Just
That's a tough one though, for precedent's sake and things like that.
absolutely.
But it also, would a site visit be in order for this property that it is in the dune? Lots of, anytime you leave a wall, because the dunes would be able to move and flow if the wall isn't there, but I get that.
The reality is the dune is on the front, in the middle and the front side. By the time you're back here, it's a parking area and a
Right.
road.
And this site's kind of unique too, where a lot of the sites on North Shore Boulevard have parking kind of on both sides of the road.
Sure.
So this site, there really is no parking on the south side of the road. So if we were to actually eliminate that wall altogether, you're gonna be sloping down into the driveway area. Parking's gonna be eliminated. The cars are gonna just be jammed on the road. So I'm trying to every site's kind of looked at individually.
Yeah.
And with the unique characteristic and the grandfathering on that wall, I think there's probably a way for this board to be able to approve it, hopefully, and not affect future projects.
I think the precedence too would be the existing wall right now was obviously put up without coming in front of us, right? Or before those bylaws had existed.
Circa 1950s, it would have been.
Right. Yeah.
If I may, another idea or solution, if you were to make the wall shorter or, maybe 1 or 2 timbers, you could also, and I've spoke with Dave about this, there's a lot you can do with vegetation and jute netting or something similar to kind of, keep that, not necessarily a traditional wall, but to give that dune some stabilization so you're not, you can still have your driveway at the same time.
Okay.
So I think getting, a little creative in that sense might be better for your client and, the dune itself too. More vegetation is always good, so.
Yeah, even like 2D of maybe both options, a timber wall And
Combination of both.
but I think whatever you do there would be an improvement of what the existing site is.
Oh, yeah.
And if we flat out deny, don't touch the wall, don't mess with the wall, because you guys only have another option is, okay, we'll just leave it. And then all of a sudden it stays there and we had an opportunity to improve the site.
To improve it.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think we would let that go and I don't really wanna do that, so. Yeah, as much as, and what is behind it? You know, cause it looks pretty. I mean,
There's
is it straight-
vegetation behind it.
Is it,
Yeah.
yeah, is it loamy soil? Is it straight sand? Is it?
It's
No,
a dune, it's a
something
dune
could-
system, so it's
Yeah.
pretty
Probably
sandy.
sandy.
Sandy
Yeah.
soils, yeah.
The biggest issue is the parking is a huge problem on the
Right.
boulevard.
Right.
So we definitely have to have something on site.
All right, would you guys wanna do a site visit? Or do you think we can just kinda do this with like some?
Yeah, I
Right,
mean, I
Bruce?
think if we see the plans, I think that's probably for us
I think
and
so.
for you, the thing that would be helpful.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
I think that, one thing I wanted to, just acknowledge is the fact that you have an entire existing houses coming down in that area, with this project, and, it's windy. And I've seen insulation in the dune from, removals before. What can be done to address that potential for when the house is coming down and you're just, the claws are coming down on it, the debris that kind of gets, out into the world?
Well, I think the contractor in this particular one does a lot of the building down there.
Who is it?
I don't see construction,
Mm-hmm.
and they take it down very quickly. It's cleaned up in 4 hours, and he patrols the site and picks up anything. He's very picky about that.
Yeah, could it be something like where the staff is notified when the construction's gonna start?
Yep.
But maybe we could condition a notification of the demo and maybe do a visit after the demo of the house to see.
So
what that- Yeah,
any demo rebuild in a dune barrier beach has a pre-construction and after construction. There's a whole schedule that's outlined in the conditions for inspection processes to take place throughout. And it's
Yeah.
also conditioned that no debris can be like blown off the site. There has
Yeah.
to be mitigation in place
so
for that.
so there's a condition in there that says that there's gonna be a site visit after the demolition, like,
Yeah, I don't know
after the
exactly,
demolition.
but there's like, I think between 4 and 5, like, many conditions within those that are like inspections for
Yeah.
pre-construct, during demo,
Yeah.
after construct, and after it's built.
Yeah. I don't think it's necessarily like nefarious, like this, the fact that this happens, but I think it could be, it's just overlooked sometimes that things like that are out there. So that was one of the bigger concerns that I had. I mean, the footprint, we can talk about, like, everyone's comfort with the footprint and, what's being asked. I mean, they're kind of working within that an existing envelope. 2 is becoming 1, though.
Mhm.
Which is, but it's all kind of within there. So what is everyone's thoughts on that?
And how much excavation is gonna be done, or how much digging are we gonna be doing into that area? I know you're gonna be removing the concrete foundation.
Yeah, you'd have the two dwellings, the 2 houses that are currently with the proposed houses that would be removed, so they'd have to remove the existing concrete foundations.
Right. You could putting any fill in there to,
So once it's removed, it wouldn't be filled, but it'd be sandy material that's compatible with the dune that currently exists.
And
There's
then,
not much foundation there.
yeah.
There's not much, what is it, a crawl?
Not even that, I don't think.
No. Well, condition the fill material to be from the approved source that they get from.
And
the-
since it'll be on pilings, you'll be able to see that pretty easily, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's a condition we put
Right.
in there for clean wash sand of compatible grain size.
Awesome.
All right, well, I think besides the point that the abutter brought up, I think we'll just continue this wait for the letter and the schematics on the wall. Existing and proposed. I think it should be good. Do you want next meeting, or do you think you need to wait for the letter?
So I think the letter is due, I think the letter is due like the 14th, so
We have the 19th.
the 19th.
And then after that's April 2nd.
I would,
I think actually they didn't disturb areas.
I would request the 19th,
Okay.
unless there's something else going on.
Which is the next meeting, yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, we should be good to go. I can get all of our revised plans in next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did I just ask, the skirt, what does the kind of skirt of the house look like? Are they tight slats? Because one of them seemed like it was open, another drawing seemed like.
Well, that's just a schematic that
Yeah.
I do. So usually, the board equals the space. So if he uses a 4-inch board, there's a 4-inch space.
I think it has to be like 50% open or something, and
I
lattice
think
was
we had a
another one that
condition
said-
on the last one that was
Yeah.
50% open,
Yeah.
so.
It's always been that way, yeah.
And a quick question too, on the, you've got mitigation noted here for the plantings, just all disturbed areas are gonna be restored with American beach grass. Is that gonna be enough, and should we also condition to have that, make sure that it takes? It's
There's a condition in there,
It's
so
already
it's,
should be in there.
I think, 3 to 5 combs per hole, and then monitoring process along with that, and if they don't have I wanna say it's either.
A year and a half, right?
Yeah, they have some time before they can apply.
18 months, yeah.
Yeah, and I think a 75% to 95% or something success rate. And if it all dies, then you gotta put it back, so.
Is the board looking for woody species as well?
Whatever stabilizes the dunes more.
I think the beach grass in the undisturbed area, in the disturbed areas would be better. I think if you wanted a woody species, you'd probably be able to do it behind the retaining wall to go with what's already kind of there. I don't know if you want,
And you might want that to hold the dune
Sure.
better.
Okay. All right, great. Motion to continue to what did we say, the 19th? 19th.
Motion to continue DEP file number SE 66-2044, Matthew and April Forbes, care of Merrill Engineering and Land Servers, 101 North Shore Boulevard, Sandwich, Mass. 02537, to the March 17th meeting. 19th meeting.
All right. All in favor?
I have a question.
Well, we just need to second it real quick. Second.
Can I second as an alternate? Do we have enough members? Am I voting?
She was not voted in.
Yeah, okay. All right. That's okay. So who's second?
I'm not needed.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, wait, say that again?
Yeah.
She should have been appointed as the alternate so that she can vote.
Can we do that now or no?
Sure. You want to close this and then
Yeah, this is
continue
closed,
this
right?
and then, yeah,
This
do
is
that
continued,
before the
thank
next
you.
one?
All right,
All
excellent.
right,
Okay.
I'd like to appoint Linda Romano as an alternate commissioner. All in favor?
Aye.
No, second.
As a voting commissioner, right?
Voting
I already am an alternate.
Thank you. Knocking the rust off. Here we go. All right, opening up new filing, DEP file number SE 66-2045, Attila Maxilier, care of Shorefront Consulting, filed a notice of intent for proposed expansion of existing second floor deck on the single-family dwelling at 345 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Mass., located in map 95, lot 36.
Thank you. That is the largest microphone I've ever seen.
Spaceship.
Just saying. Do you take these or not?
Yeah, we can. Thank you.
Okay, for the record, Mark Burgess of Shorefront Consulting, representing the applicants here. So this, I'm sure the board is familiar with this property, 345 Phillips Road. It received a project, the house was raised and replaced and put on pilings a number of years ago. It just got a certificate of compliance a couple of months ago, I believe. At any rate, the proposal before you is a modest expansion of the existing deck on the second floor. There's nothing at grade. So it's only in the air, essentially floating over the resource area. It doesn't extend further seaward than the existing deck, and it doesn't extend further beyond the footprint of the house. So they're not getting into any setback issues or anything like that. It's within existing footprints, if you will. They're just filling in the corner is all. It's constructed on 3 pilings. The head builders are the project managers for the construction portion. The same pile driving company that put the piles in for the house will drive those 3 piles. I'm told 8 to 10 feet below grade. And then, you have your pile cap and framing above that, and everything's done in the air. They only need access on one side of the house. It'll be kept to a minimum as usual. And if there's any vegetation that's disturbed as a result of construction, of course, it goes right back. That essentially is it. I'm gonna keep it simple.
Thank you. I'd like to open it up to staff comments.
Staff comments pretty limited. I know you had submitted an expired NHESP letter and we're waiting for a current one.
I got it.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay.
I can give you a copy.
And we also get it.
Then, yes, you should have got it. They did come back with a no-take and will not adversely affect.
Okay,
the
so it
resource
wasn't a
areas.
conditioned one, it was just the description.
Yeah, I actually filed it with them a month ago,
Okay.
so I know I would get the reply by the time I'm with you tonight. You're welcome. This is it.
Can we have that copy? Is that okay?
They should have emailed it to you, but I have it, so
Okay,
no worries.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then my only other concern, I had looked over everything quickly, and I didn't see a work limit demarcated on the back of the house there, but I understand most of the work is taking place above the resource area. So like say for the 3, you said 3 posts, correct? Going in the ground.
3 pilings.
Yeah.
I don't know how big the pile driver is, but when the house was built,
Yeah.
they were able to keep it pretty tight, like 10 foot
Okay,
at the most
okay.
width.
So that was the only thing I just noticed that wasn't marked on the map, or on your plan rather. And when you do, start construction, using high-vis construction fencing, the orange fencing is usually what's conditioned for the work limit.
Yep, for us, that's all standard.
Okay.
The orange fencing around.
Yeah, the orange plastic stuff.
No worries.
And no standard erosion control measures just because you're in a dune. We don't want to inhibit the movement of sand with any silt fence and whatnot, so those are my only concerns.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open up to public comment. To close public comment and open up to the board. It seems pretty cut and dry, pretty nice and easy, so. Does anyone have any questions in regards to, is the letter, is that okay?
Yeah. Yep.
So we're good?
I might have highlighted the 2 areas.
Yep. Will not result, yeah, that works.
Okay. So we have a letter. We have a standard operating procedure with a limit of work. And it's the correct material. So if there's not any questions, we can do a motion. Unless there's any questions.
No.
Yeah?
I'd like to make a motion to approve file number SE 662034 at 345 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Massachusetts, located at map 95, lot 36.
Special.
With special and standard conditions as discussed.
Second.
Jonathan got that one.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moved.
I'm
Thank you.
abstaining.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you are, okay. And Mark, you had submitted a whole extra copy of everything, so I'm just gonna give it back to you,
Okay.
with your original document.
Yeah, there were lots of plans with this, mostly desk friendly.
Moving to opening up continued filings, DEP file number SE 66 -2041, Peter B. and Janice H. Saul, care of Down Cape Engineering, file a notice of intent for proposed raise and
Sorry, that's it.
proposed raise and replace of existing single-family dwelling at 331 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Mass, located map 95, parcel 25.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. For the record, Dan Ojo, I'm a surveyor, civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering, and yard report. And with me is Rick Anderson, the builder, in case there's any questions. But this was, I think, well vetted at the last hearing. As you may recall, we discussed it. It's kind of a unique site. I think the board generally felt the proposal was reasonable. We did have a very small amount of work out front, some mitigation plantings, beefing up the plantings within NHESP. So we continued it for the meeting. We missed quorum last time, but here we continue this meeting. We do have the letter. You guys got it for your file?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, and so, just like the last one, will not result in a prohibited take and will not adversely affect. Those are the magic words we look for. And of course, they do have the ability to put a shorebird monitor, you know, and we would absolutely agree with that. So if you want to put the conditions in the letter, that's fine. Again, they're not requiring it, but they just say we should be able to allow it on the property, which is absolutely fine. I can reiterate if you have any questions. Other than that, I think that was the one thing we had continued for. I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. I'd like to open it to staff for comments.
So I reviewed everything just because it's been a little bit since we heard you last. And I know you had on your plan, I believe, a picture of the standard erosion control measures, but since you're in the coastal dune, you won't need the hay bale, wattle, and silt fence. It's just the high-vis construction fencing. So I'm working on conditioning things that are project specific for those resource areas. So that's just something to make note of. And then I still have concerns about the 162% increase of habitable space. I understand the deck takes up a large portion of the house property area now, but I'm concerned with that being a Conservation Commission policy. If we allow it for one, it could set a precedent for other projects moving forward that do adhere to the 60%. So just something to, I guess, make note of. I don't know if that's something that can be addressed with I know the house is quite small, the deck is large, and I understand where you're coming from with your explanation last time. I just am concerned for setting a precedent for other demo rebuild projects in the area. So.
And through the chair, I would just reiterate that it's an extremely small cottage. And if you look, we looked at the bird's eye view and the perspective of the massive structures around it. Were it not for the deck not having a roof over it, would be fully compliant with your regulation. So, you know, would really appreciate it if you could, you know, it's an informal rule, and I think it's a site-specific basis. We've got one of the largest lots there, so our percentage hurts because of that. Again, if we just included that deck, would fully comply with the habitable space. So if you could amend that internal policy, just give a little adjustment, as we discussed at the last meeting. You know, I don't think it's setting a precedent because it's just such a unique, huge lot with a rather small cottage, and everything else out there is bigger. So it would be very much in keeping with what we'll end up with. So that was our hope.
I'd like to open up to public comment. All right, closing public comment, opening up to the board. I guess that's like kind of a hang up for some people.
I have a question. If we voted yes and set the precedent, a precedent is a precedent. So, I mean, unless you vote to say this isn't a precedent, like,
I think
confused or concerned about the wording in future projects.
Yeah, a good thing to think about the precedent would be set on
This particular law.
a very site-specific lot, and one of the designs that we were shown was the size of this lot versus all the other lots. And I think another thing was the deck that you had mentioned. If it had a roof, it wouldn't be a 60% increase. So the structure, the covering of the dune, which I think is the main point of the rule, and how much gets disturbed and like what is covered with actual wood material or any construction material, is not increasing by 162. But what was the new number?
Well, if we included the deck, it would be under the 1.6.
Should be like under the 60%.
Right, yeah. 1643 divided by 1.6 is 1027 habitable space would have been required, And with the deck where they are, existing is 628, deck is 622. So the deck is as big as the house, basically, or
Yeah.
close to it. And then would only need 399 of that to make the number. So, you know, and again, when you look at the site, it's one of the biggest lots there with one of the smallest houses. There's a huge house behind it, bigger ones around it. This house right here is much bigger on a lot that's a quarter the size. It's just a very, I wouldn't think, you know, precedents are very hard because I don't think we need worry about it. You concentrate every site specific.
That's why the other houses are kind of irrelevant. The size of the other houses are irrelevant. We can always do better as a
It
conservation
is, but if
commission.
we were arguing to have the biggest house out here, it would be one thing,
Yeah.
and we're certainly not doing that. It's a fraction of some of them, and it's a big lot, and I think it's, when you look at this particular site, the improvements Crawford Land Management is coming through with, you know, a nice increase in planting density, a nice palette monitoring. There's some site-specific things that I think will benefit if we do this project, and we sure would appreciate it, and the septic is already upgraded.
I just wanted to ask, is it a 3-bedroom house now and it's gonna become a 4?
I don't know, we're not increasing the bedrooms, is that correct?
It says 4 bedrooms.
Staying at 3, yeah.
So it's a 3, staying at 3.
Well, it says 3 bedrooms, but then there's a primary, so doesn't that mean 4 bedrooms?
No, it should just mean 3, right?
Well, to the extent that there
It
is,
needs 4.
we'll take the door off it, yeah, that's not the intent.
I mean, am I looking at the wrong shit?
4 bedrooms, okay.
So it is 4, so it's 3 becoming 4.
Correct.
Did you see, okay, so it's also land, it's subject to coastal storm flowage too, and the concern is this, that there's so much, you know, undisturbed area there that a house of that size is going to absolutely, it's supposed to have no adverse.
Well, the undisturbed areas will stay undisturbed because the deck. What's the number between existing home with the deck and then what's that, 1,000 square feet?
So, round figures, yeah, I mean, the coverage is 22% where it's 10% now, but that's the roof, so the deck is, yeah, it's pretty close to.
So house plus deck is 1,000 square feet and it's increasing to,
let me see if I have that.
Yeah, that's fine.
So existing is 628, deck is 622.
so 1,200.
That's 12, yeah, and then proposed, I don't know, existing site,
47 is the increase.
yeah, I think it would, I'd have to back into it with a calculator, but it's,
It's 1247 per square foot.
So proposed is 22.
there's quite a,
Yeah, so proposed building's gonna be 2,200 square feet.
we have a space.
91.
But 12 plus with the deck.
Yeah, so, yeah, cause like the house and the deck equals 1,200.
Right.
So it is,
Already, you know, existing conditions with nothing growing there, you know what I mean?
so then it is an increase of
1,000 square
1,000.
So it still stays at still almost a 50% increase. Well, it says no more than 60, so.
Yeah, 60% would be 1,000. Of what's there, but again, if you just count the deck, then, so it's that close to the, it's pretty much a 50 and change % increase. But the advantages, pervious stone driveway native, up on open piles compared to a solid structure that's down there now. It's a low deck, which doesn't allow anything to grow under it. It will be up and we'll probably get some plant growth underneath it. So there's a number of benefits. If we ever get the big one, instead of debris being washed everywhere, you'll have a nice safe structure. And again, compared to the ones around it, it's completely reasonable. They would all be a lot bigger houses than us and bigger than what we're proposing. So it'll match nicely, we think. It'll be better for the environment being up. Remove dry wells and trenches for all the runoff, fully replanted. No problem with NTES.
So I think for me, the thing is it's Phillips Road. And like when we're talking about dunes, it's a very different world across the canal. And like if this was a project on Town Neck, I think my reaction would be very different. And I think most of ours would be because we know the sensitivity of the site and we know that the site on Phillips Road is not as sensitive.
Yeah.
And I think the precedent for me then, if personal precedence, is thinking about those two as different areas. And I know it's still Sandwich, but it's a very different part
more
of Sandwich.
stable.
Yeah.
The beach has gained 100 feet rather than losing
Yeah,
100
exactly.
feet.
So
It's
the
a
satellite shows that it's a stable site, and I agree. I think it's an improvement on the site when we're talking about that a fairly healthy area. We have a good moving sand under there. It's taking up. I think the water issues with the downspouts that's solved. So
And I definitely think with the deck part and how large that is compared to the house, I think that's if someone came in and cited this lot as precedence towards the board for an increase of over 60%, we would evaluate it based on how we evaluating this project. And I think if it, which is with a couple of, very key points.
yeah.
So.
Is there a scenario wherein it stays a 3-bedroom and we don't make it bigger? Like, has that been explored at all? Maybe decreasing a little bit of this increase just to kind of get closer to under 60%? Or just wondering if there's been any other thoughts about it.
Yeah, because that is certainly another consideration of even just toilets now. So if we have another bedroom, if we're thinking increased capacity.
Well, I mean, we're not Board of Health though.
Yeah.
That would be on them.
What is their thoughts about it? Do they have?
Actually, yeah, what was the Title V?
We already have a 4-bedroom system.
Yeah.
Existing.
They're not upgraded.
So yeah, so it's actually nothing's changing. So they're just not maximizing it.
Has there been a thought about an IA system as a mitigation in terms of asking for more, asking for something that isn't, I'm just,
It'd be hard to-
negotiation is where I was concerned.
Generally, I would say, if I could through the chair, that those make a lot of sense if you've got a sensitive embayment. Here, you've got the open bay, which is not nitrogen sensitive, even in the harbor areas. There's just such a nice tidal flush, and it's just so pristine that it's just a drop, I would say, a drop in a bucket or a pin in a bathtub. It's of such a little effect that, I wouldn't think it would offset the increased electrical cost, the operations and maintenance, trucks moving up and down. The environmental cost of that would be more than a little bit of nitrogen.
What's the increased environmental cost?
So electricity, right?
Well, yeah,
So
sure,
we're
but you're
only
saying-
getting a little bit from solar. Most of it comes from fossil fuels. You've got a monthly operations and maintenance where they come up with testing with the trucks driving, gasoline. Whereas if it's just a simple gravity system, there's none of that. It's just pump it every 3 years. So there's just a lot of activities, including the blower and electrical costs that would have, if you think of, kind of globally, would have an environmental impact that would probably skew it on the negative rather than the positive in this area. Where it's a nitrogen sensitive area, if it were an NSA, I would say that would make sense then, because nitrogen is critical. Here, you're kind of doing it just to do it, and it wouldn't make too much sense, in my opinion.
I'd honestly like to see it, because it's such a substantial increase. I would just like to see what the plans are, like where the drainage, where's the drainage gonna be, where's the flow of the water gonna be? Is it gonna be now going toward the street, toward the ocean, what are this, all of those gonna be?
Well, you have dry wells for all the downspouts.
Yes.
And then I believe no grades were pitching towards the water, right?
No, it's
Vegetation.
it's a well-drained area. We've got quite a bit of sand in place. It's a nice lens of fresh water that floats over the salt. The salt would be underneath it, and you've got, if it's 2 up, it'd be about 80 feet down, a freshwater lens. We're probably about the break-even point where it would sit and maybe drift slowly towards the open bay. But again, it's just such a good tidal flush in here, and there's so many good plants to uptake the nitrogen that isn't a huge concern. Of course, runoff with the sand, as we mentioned, we don't even worry about a silt fence, a construction fence, which would not prohibit the sand from blowing through is a better way to go. So you've got some flexibility there.
Does anyone have any other input?
Just in regard to the setting of precedent, I would say, as long as, so this project, the disturbance is under that, so disturbance as a whole, not the habitable space, the disturbance being under that precedent or the existing is important because disturbance is used often in the Wetlands Protection Act. So keeping those two, as well as the increase in restoration over the increase. So I think if we were to grant a waiver, we would have to cite those two specific instances as part of this project. So we're saying, hey, so if someone were to come back and say, hey, this project here, they were granted that waiver, why are we different? I think we would be able to kind of have that negotiation should those two precedents be met. And the engineer did provide both an increase, or he meets in terms of disturbance, and there's also an increase in restoration.
Right. Like significant increase too, right?
Yeah, so the increase in disturbance, I believe, is 1,247. The restoration is 1,960. So it's about a 1.5%.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit less.
Yeah.
Maybe if there's any more room for.
There's no room.
Yeah.
It's like everything's getting,
Yeah. So that also, mitigation constraint is another term that's used. So given that it's a mitigation constraint site, he's above the disturbed area and the total disturbance rather than habitable areas. And those are kind of three things that we could make sure that that's set in the future.
No, I agree.
Is the 60% rule a actual rule or is
It's
it
a
a
policy.
casual
It's an
policy?
internal
policy.
policy.
So we can disregard it if we feel like it?
We're not disregarding, we're
just
definitely, yeah. I mean,
It's a rule of thumb.
it's a rule of thumb. It's a good rule, it's a good rule of thumb. I think it's a good policy to have.
Because it creates conversation, which is what we're doing.
Because
So I think
it's,
it's
and it's,
perfectly
I think the
serving its
policy,
point.
it definitely, yeah, 100%, and I definitely think the policy was created because of disturbed areas. And I think that, you know, what Tyler's saying about that, those two major things inside of this application and how it's, you know, they're overcompensating for the restoration work versus what they're actually disturbing from the existing site are two huge factors for this project.
Coupled with the sensitivity or less sensitivity of the site as well. So I think those combined really, I'm good with it.
Kim, do you have any questions? No. Thank you. Is everyone good?
Yep.
All right, then I think we can, someone can make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve DEP file number SE66-2041, Peter B. and Janice H. Saul, care of Down Cape Engineering, 331 Phillips Road, Sandwich, Mass. Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
I really appreciate it, and we did have, the assessors had it as 4 bedrooms, so I think that's another little thing we can look at.
Yeah, absolutely, thank you. All right. I'd like to make a motion to continue DEP file number SE66-2043, Phyllis Ardino, care of Kroll Engineering, filed a notice of intent for proposing raising of a single-family foundation home by 6 feet at 3 Sandcastle Drive, located at map 96, parcel 2. I'm going to read into the record their continuance. This is from Robert Kroll to the Sandwich Conservation Office. We will not have an alternate plan completed for the 5th of March. We would like to continue the public hearing to the 3/19/2025 meeting. Can someone second that? All in favor? Approved. All right, extension's good, COC's good. Move right to other business.
Yep.
Okay.
So
Bring this to you.
I can grab it, that's fine too. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I mean, before
Yep,
we
he's
move.
from the Sandwich Tree and Landscape.
Okay, so you're gonna
Yes.
talk,
Yes.
and are you all set? Oh, you're
That's
riding with, yeah, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yep.
So this is Jim Rogers. I don't know if you guys have all met, but he is head of the Sandwich Tree and Landscape Advisory Committee, right? And we've been in discussion with moving forward with work on Brady's Island. So if you wanted to speak on that a little bit.
Jim Rogers, Sandwich Tree and Landscape Advisory. I'm the acting chairman. A little over a year ago, we were banished from Brady's Island because one of our members cut a little too close to the marsh. I think our suspension was up last fall. So we're back again, and we've talked to Jenna several times about what's permissible for us to do and what's not. I think we're on the same page there. And so we'd like to go back. We had the place looking pretty nice, we think, and we think we can do that again.
So we've had a couple meetings with Jim and Ross, I'm not sure what his title is. And kind of brought forward the same plans that I've shown everyone here. And we're all on the same page. I've also met with James, the tree warden, James Sacco. So literally everybody should be on the same page now with what we are proposing to do. I know DNR staff's involvement is going to be a little more to start, and flagging boundaries and whatnot of where's the more sensitive areas versus trail maintenance and things like that. But essentially wanted to come before you guys and make sure that was all that all worked for everybody here, that we can have them come back and start work once their parameters have been marked out, which I think we're doing, I want to say next week. So
does anyone have any questions?
No. I just want to say that what you've done is awesome. Like, growing up, Brady's Island was always this mysterious place, and I think the maintenance of our lands, I was at a conference, actually, no, I gave a talk, and one of the men from DCR stated that we live in an ecosystem where not managing it is the problem. Like, we have to, and I think your committee has, both with Brady's Island, but also there's those great articles in years past in the Enterprise about the big trees and measurements, and I think your engagement with the trees and our land is, I'd like to commend you for it, because you're just people in town that are caring about your land. So I look forward to moving ahead and what within parameters that we all feel healthy and is good for our ecosystem. So thank you for coming in, and thank you for the work, and we'll keep moving forward.
Thanks. It could be a great park again. It could be a place that people really go there and walk and appreciate the marsh, the trees.
And the history of it. I mean, it used to just be this strange island in the middle of the marsh. It was such an interesting
There was a family there once who lived there.
Yeah, there's that map from in TD Bank, they have it there, and you can see like an island.
Actually, my ancestors, Brady, Vikings and Brady's.
That's your island.
Yeah.
Yes.
You go over there and put a flag.
Excellent.
Oh man. Okay. All right. So that's good. All right. Any comment?
they can come back. That's fine.
I
Okay,
like it,
cool.
yeah. We don't have to make a motion for that.
No, I just wanted to make sure where they were
You were good, yeah.
asked to leave. I want to make sure that was okay with everybody, that they now can come back.
You guys can come back.
Great.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, moving to the approval for the minutes. We're
Wait a
good on
minute,
that?
isn't there other business, I'm sorry.
That was
Yeah.
the other business.
That was other business.
Yeah, well, I know, but also we got an email about subpoenas.
So that
And
can't
we
be,
also
that's not on the
in the
agenda
email-
right now,
We're not.
so we can't discuss that at the moment.
Say that again?
That's not on this agenda, so that's not to
It
be
isn't on-
discussed at this meeting.
Oh, when is it?
Whatever the following scheduled meeting is, I don't know off the top of my head.
It's gonna be at our next meeting.
We'll have an executive session at the March 19th meeting at 5:30
30,
To
okay.
discuss.
to discuss a couple things. Yeah. Yep.
Oh, okay, I just,
Yeah, but we can't
because we
discuss
got
it
that
at this time.
information. And then, the Cape Cod Canal cleanup, are you gonna discuss that at all, or that's just information?
So it's just a fun thing to share if you want to print it out and bring it to your workplace or your family, you know.
Do people have to sign up, or just
There is
show
a
up?
register link in it, yeah.
Oh, okay.
What day was that again? Just to speak it into the record.
19.
April 19th.
April
For
19th.
Earth Day.
Oh, it's 2 days after my birthday. We can have a cake.
Oh. Well,
Aries, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, we'll make a motion to approve the 2/19/2025 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, is that, everyone good? All right.
I guess a couple of us went to a conference this weekend. I don't know if we should share about
Yes.
that.
Oh.
How was your conference?
Yes, we'll bring it back, yeah, how was that?
Well, I didn't see Bernice at all. I kept looking.
You did? Different times.
Yeah.
I waited for you at lunch too, I was like, I just kept looking at it and
Oh, my
saying.
goodness. How did it go? Good?
It was great.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it showed a little bit of the complications, I think, of what people in the town have to go through to fight for preserved land and things like that.
Like, we have it easier than most, or we have it more difficult?
Town people have a hard.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
That's what I came away
Oh,
from
yeah.
that
I
with.
agree with that.
But I would agree with the other communities. Like, I talk to people and they're like, well, we just go and people cut down huge swaths of forest. And like I think we're 60% of the town is conservation or is protected land, maybe is the number. And they're like, I mean, there's communities. So at one point, they were all stressed out, and I was like, so you're just stressed about like how do we manage it was a vernal pool session. It was awesome, but everyone's like they're destroying our vernal pools, and we're like, oh, our vernal pools are pretty safe, but like how do we maintain them more? And all the speakers are like, no one's ever asked that question because everyone's just trying to like save them.
Yeah.
So there was an interesting thing about salamanders and just like the spring. Amherst does this thing where if there's a road.
A herp walk?
Yeah. They're like, hey, the salamanders are moving tonight. We're going to have signs to stop cars or move them.
So I've been one of those people grabbing the salamanders and the frogs and helping them cross the street on like the first warm, rainy night and just like ushering them along.
Little baby turtles on a beach.
So I don't know if there's anywhere in town that's the case. Yeah, but I feel like it would be an interesting thing of ways to engage the community.
Yeah.
Of like, we don't know if there are areas, but if you go out at night in the spring near, especially those vernal pools.
It's been warm and we're getting rain this weekend.
Those
this
peepers
week.
are gonna start.
They're gonna be hopping out there. So.
Exactly.
Drive accordingly. Please don't run them over.
Yeah. But they have a map of all the vernal pools in Massachusetts. Also, they used to be called whale wallows because they thought that it's where, when there was the great biblical flood, a whale was ashore and then the waters receded and then it died and left this hollow there that sometimes was wet. They have many other names, but there's not a lot certified in Sandwich.
Yeah, so there is on our GIS mapping system, there's like a vernal pool toggle. I do check those when we get projects near BVWs and whatnot, just to see if they're in the vicinity. But they do light up bright orange, so you can kind of see where some of them are. If they're still active, I don't know, because nobody surveys them necessarily.
Yeah, but you can.
Vernal pool certified to survey them.
And kids can do it. So what they said is, as long as you meet criteria, and if you can find like frogs in there, and they're a type of little
You've got
shrimp.
so many like species.
That shelter there.
Water so much time of the year, or whatever.
Yeah. So it might be interesting, I think, that idea of how do we engage the schools? Like, if we could reach out and say, hey, we know there's, like, I can tell you there's at least 3 that I think are there, and neither are they picked up or even potentials. But I think just, like, engaging the community.
We could sponsor a Boy Scout badge.
Yeah, totally. A vernal pool Boy Scout badge.
Awesome.
Yes.
Didn't they create an educational one at the high school? I think Dave had mentioned that.
The
There's an
library is
educational
doing a workshop on venal pools.
Oh, nice.
I got an email today because I went to the, I think the only reason I got it is because I went to the library
So you
to
probably
see
got
Jeremy and others.
Yeah, there you go.
So anyway, keep an eye out, or if you were thinking of making it part of the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Contact them.
So.
Don't forget to send me your receipt.
Oh, yes.
And Bernice, did you send me your receipt?
I will.
And a copy of your card with the numbers blacked out.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Arlene, any other business?
I have nothing.
All right, we'll make a motion to adjourn the March 5th, 2025 Sandwich Conservation Commission at 7 o'clock on the dot.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moved.